In today's video, we'll take a look at random facts and trivia about the Neptunia series. This video is going to be all over the place, but hopefully it'll be a bit of fun for fans of the series. I'm pretty sure I've got at least a few facts not many people know. And if you know some cool trivia yourself, post them in the comments. Just keep in mind, by the way, that there will be probably some spoilers. I think the best thing to do is get going right away. Like every fanservice-y anime-style game, the Neptunia series has been criticized for objectifying women and all that jazz. But an interesting note is that the series producer, Mitsuno Naoko, and the lead character designer, Tsunako, are both women, something I'm sure many critics will make an effort to gloss over. As strange as it sounds, every mainline game has a remake. The first three PS3 games, Hyperdimension Neptunia, Mark II, and Victory, all became Rebirth 1 through 3. And Megadimension Neptunia V2 has been remade into V2R. But all of this is for different reasons. The Rebirth games are based on Mark II's and Victory's gameplay, but with adjustments to the story. And V2R runs on a new game engine, but leaves the story alone for the most part. Neptunia Mark II is the only mainline game to predominantly use 3D cutscenes. A bit of a strange move since the 2D cutscenes are done very well, but thankfully that was just a one-off since they immediately went back to the 2D VN-style cutscenes. Speaking of Mark II, it's also the only mainline game to not feature Neptune as the protagonist. I guess that's what the spin-offs are there for these days. I've got a really obscure bit of trivia now regarding Uni's tunnel armor. Many of the games have this costume, but if you equip it on her in Mark II and Victory, then make her the party leader, you'll notice a unique idle animation. This doesn't work in the remakes or the newer games. She just has her normal hands folded pose. The idea of unique idle animations is something I like, and I don't know why they decided to stop doing that. Also, to all of you experts out there, is this the only outfit with a unique idle animation, or are there others? Let me know. Here's another Mark II and Victory fact. Those are the only two games to feature something called Costume Canvas. It was possible to apply custom skins to the CPUs and CPU candidates' HDD forms. This feature was removed in the remakes and later games. You can probably guess why. It's pretty easy to apply custom skins to the PC games, just as an FYI. In Victory, the very first trophy you get is Neptunia Victory Begins, which is a shot at reviewers who rated the game, or the first two games, rather badly, despite having barely played through the games. I love this one. If that's not a take that, then I don't know what is. I wonder what some of the reviewers were thinking when they read that. Okay, I'm gonna mispronounce this name, but Nobuo Uematsu makes a lot of the music in Neptunia. In case you don't know who that is, he's famous for composing the music of Final Fantasy. He, along with his band called Earthbound Papas, contributed a lot of songs to the series. I'll play a few for you. Speaking of Final Fantasy, Neptune hums or sings the tune of the Final Fantasy level up music when she levels up. Rather appropriate. In most mainline games, it's really easy to evade enemies if you straddle the edge of the map. For some reason, the enemies usually don't see you, so that means you can run through a dungeon without fighting, or avoid fights if you're spotted by just running towards the edge. They fixed that with V2 and V2R. And the first PS3 game works completely different in terms of encounters with enemies. Out of all spin-offs, Producing Perfection is the only one not to be ported to the PC. It was a very badly received game, which is probably why it was never ported. Another reason could be because this game was published by Nisa. Only Idea Factory ended up porting games to the PC. Now we're getting into spoiler territory for V2 and V2R. Some people might think that Dark Uzume is just a palette-swapped Uzume, but I think it's a reference to the two logos the Dreamcast had. Uzume is based on the Dreamcast. The game is not subtle about that at all. The logo of the Dreamcast is orange, hence the color scheme, but in Europe they used blue instead. I like to think that they referenced that. Uzume is also the only goddess who has a higher-pitched voice after transforming. Everyone else's voice ends up being more low or mature sounding. Speaking of transforming, while most characters look more mature or fully figured after transforming, Uni is the only character whose chest size actually decreases.
I'll face you with all my names. Wow, Uni! Where'd your boobs go?
Have you ever wondered what this bizarre drawing from Ray Wrights was all about? If so, I'll explain. The Japanese voice actor for Ray Wrights is Kobayashi Yu, who is famous for doing strange things. One of those strange things is making artwork that looks like this. This is simply just a reference to that, and this was brought up in the anime as well. Actually, a lot of animes bring up her unique drawing skills. The vast majority of characters in the series are female, and in fact there was a time where male characters weren't even shown in cutscenes, but somehow Umio ended up being the only male character to become playable. What a bad decision that was. There's this running gag where characters have a hard time pronouncing Neptune's name. The reason for that is because the name Neptune is a bit harder to pronounce for Japanese people than English speakers. This might be something that's not exactly apparent if you play the English dub. Over the years, the series has been quite immune to content censorship, but the game covers have been censored in various ways. Some are subtle, others not so. The first PS3 game has 2 instances of censorship on the cover. The hand over Purple Heart's cleavage is obvious, but if you look at White Heart, as you can see, she's been repositioned to have her bum obscured. Mark II's Western cover image is just a combination of character illustrations, instead of being an illustration specifically made to be a cover, which I thought was an interesting choice. This time they used strands of hair to cover up the cleavage here. When Idea Factory took over, they were pretty good at not changing things at first, but that didn't last long. Neptunia U has Neptune's cleavage covered by the logo, and Megatech mentioned they were a bit worried about Neptune's high-riding skirt, so more logo coverage. In Hyperdevotion, Noir's boob window size has been reduced. Honestly, I didn't even notice that at first until someone pointed it out in the comments. And in V2R, they used the classic hair-blocking tits technique accompanied by fancy particle effects. Honestly, I don't get this kind of thinking. Why do they even do this? To please someone who isn't even going to buy or play any of these games? In the end, it just annoys the fans. I think I'm going to end it there. It's a bit of a strange assortment of facts, but hopefully you found the video enjoyable. Let me and the other viewers know in the comments if there are any bits of trivia you know about the Neptunia series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.